was only there for recovery. Just 3 weeks of quiet physical rehab at Beelitz after my motorcycle crash. My legs were still weak, ribs taped up, but I could walk, barely. The staff kept things calm, routine, too calm, like they were afraid to stir something. The wing they put me in was old, renovated on the surface, but beneath it, I could feel the age, smell it. At night, it crept in through the cracks, the scent of mold and rust and something older, almost sweet, like decaying flowers. The first time it happened, I thought it was sleep paralysis. I woke in the dark, unable to move, eyes half open. My bed was still, the window ajar. But I swear, I saw shadows, long arms, crooked backs. They stood for minutes, just watching. When I could move again, they were gone. The nurses told me it was the meds, said people had vivid dreams here, but I wasn't on anything stronger than ibuprofen. I started staying awake longer, listening. That's when I heard it. Somewhere around 2 a.m. every night, the hallway outside creaked with footsteps, not shoes, bare feet, dragging slowly past my door. Sometimes, the footsteps stopped, right at my room. I'd hold my breath, eyes locked on the doorframe. Once, I swear I saw fingers curl around the edge, before vanishing again. I asked to change rooms. They said the others were full. But when I wheeled myself around during the day, I saw entire wings shut tight, empty beds, locked doors. They were lying. On the 8th night, I made a mistake. I left my door cracked open, just to see. At 2:11 a.m., the sound returned. The dragging, the low, wet breathing. And then, someone crawled into the room. Not walked, crawled. I couldn't scream. She was in a hospital gown, skin mottled with bruises. Her eyes were crazed, mouth slack, limbs too long. She reached for my legs, grabbed them and smiled. Then she howled. The lights flickered, alarms beeped, and when the nurses burst in, she was gone. They found me on the floor, trembling, bleeding from my knees where I had kicked so hard against the frame. They sedated me. When I woke up, I wasn't in my room anymore. This place was different. Lower ceilings, older tiles, no windows. My bed was bolted to the floor, and the IV bags were unlabeled. The hallway was silent. I tried calling out. No one came. There was a file on the nightstand. I opened it. Patient number 1087, reacclimation cycle 4. There was a photo of me, but it was aged, like it had been taken decades ago. The admission date said 1974. Notes on behavior. He resists relocation. Memories unstable. May require reprocessing. They had been moving me back to this room for years. That night, the figures came again. Not 1, 4. They entered without sound, gathered around my bed, and without speaking, they began to pull. I fought, screamed. But I couldn't stop them. They whispered in a language I didn't know but somehow understood. You were ours. You left. You forgot. Now, you return. They dragged me out of the room, down those tunnels, back to a section of the hospital I'd never seen. The walls pulsed. Lights blinked behind flesh-like panels. Something organic was alive down there, built into the hospital, feeding on time or memory. And my bed was waiting. They put me back in it. Above me, old pipes hissed. The lights dimmed. I woke up again in my original room. But now, every mirror shows me older than I am. My eyes are grayer, my hands thinner. I don't know how long I've been here, but every night, they drag me back. We were told not to enter the lower tunnels. Too unstable, too dangerous. But after 3 weeks of demo work, curiosity got the better of us. There were 4 of us. Me, Marcus, Jochen, and Lena. We were supposed to gut the admin wing, but one afternoon, Marcus found a steel hatch beneath a false floor in the boiler room. Old, cold to the touch, and sealed shut. We pried it open anyway. The stairs led downward, farther than we expected. Our phones lost signal 5 minutes in. At the bottom was a set of tunnel doors, curved and rusted. As we approached, the doors just opened on their own. The air that came out wasn't stale. It was warm, moist, like the breath of something alive. Lena wanted to leave, but Marcus walked inside with his flashlight. We followed. The tunnels stretched for what felt like miles. Arched brick ceilings, cracked pipes, occasional lights that flickered with no power source. The deeper we went, the more wrong it felt. Time blurred. I kept checking my watch. It spun wildly, like the hands were floating. Then Jochen saw something in the distance. A man, pale, naked, crouched low and crab-walking along the ceiling. We ran, but the doors had closed behind us. We ran back the way we came, but the tunnel had changed. It curved, split, merged. We passed the same pipe cluster 3 times. We started to argue, panic building. Then Marcus screamed. We found him slumped against the wall, sobbing, saying he'd seen his brother down there, his brother who died 10 years ago. He told me to stay. He said it's warmer here. We couldn't reason with him. His nose was bleeding, his eyes unfocused, and then Lena vanished. 1 second she was there, holding my arm. The next, just gone, as if the tunnel swallowed her. Jochen lost it. He ran into the dark, yelling Lena's name. I tried to follow, but the light began to dim, like a tide going out. That's when I noticed the walls. They were breathing, expanding and contracting, faintly wet. My boots squelched with each step. I looked back and saw footprints behind me. Not mine. Bare. Dozens of them, leading toward me. Then I heard whispers. My own name, spoken in my voice. I turned a corner and the tunnel opened into a wide domed chamber. It was full of hospital beds, stacked, broken, rusted, hanging upside down. A twisted mockery of a ward. On each bed, a figure, and each had my face. I screamed, ran blindly, fell, crawled. Somehow, I found the hatch again. It was open. Daylight poured through. I climbed out, lungs heaving, collapsed into cold air. I was alone. No Marcus, no Jochen, no Lena. No one believed me. They searched the tunnels, but the hatch I described wasn't there anymore. It had closed itself. I wasn't supposed to be there at night. I was just a photographer, chasing urban decay and history, crumbling stairwells, shattered tiles, vines strangling old surgical wings. Beelitz-Heilstätten had all of it. I came alone, thinking I'd catch the golden hour. But the sun dipped faster than I expected, and my curiosity kept pulling me deeper into the complex. Somewhere past the surgery pavilion, down a collapsed corridor, I found an iron elevator shaft yawning open like a mouth. The last thing I remember was the sound of the floor cracking beneath my boots. Then everything went black. I woke up choking on dust and dirt, my flashlight flickering dimly beside me. My head throbbed. The fall hadn't killed me, but I couldn't tell where I was. The walls were brick, the air thick and stale, and the ceiling low and arched. I wasn't in a basement. I was underground. I tried calling for help, but my voice echoed like it had nowhere to go. That's when I noticed the tracks, narrow, rusted rails running into the darkness. An old patient transport tunnel, maybe, or something worse. I limped forward, the beam of my flashlight swinging across old crates, corroded gurneys, and graffiti that didn't look like it had been made by teenagers. The symbols scratched into the walls were frantic, layered, almost clawed. Every 50 feet or so, there were doors. Not normal ones, short, metal, and rounded. I tried opening one, but it was sealed tight. The hinges screamed when I pulled. That's when I heard it, dragging footsteps. Not heavy, not hurried, just persistent. The sound grew louder, shuffling across the broken tiles and loose gravel behind me. A wheezing breath joined it, strained, wet. I pressed myself into the wall, barely daring to breathe. It passed right by me, whatever it was, casting no shadow, just a sudden drop in temperature. A presence that made my skin crawl and my stomach turn. When it was gone, I bolted. I tried one of the doors again, and this time it gave way. Behind it was a tiled chamber, with an old operating table rusted to the floor, and black stains spidering across the grout. Chains hung from the ceiling. But what broke me was the camera. It was aimed at the table, and it was still recording. I stepped closer, heart pounding, and saw the monitor, grainy, flickering. showing me. But behind me, on the screen, was a figure in a hospital gown, face obscured, just standing there. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back at the monitor, I wasn't there anymore. Only the figure remained, slowly tilting its head toward the lens. I ran again, but the tunnel was different now. The lights buzzed to life in intervals, old fluorescents flashing to reveal pale limbs disappearing around corners, gurneys rolling on their own, and walls that seemed to breathe. I passed an open cell with "not the first" smeared on the wall in something dark. Another chamber had mirrors covering every surface, but none reflected me. When I finally collapsed, sobbing against the cold wall, I realized something else. I couldn't feel time. My watch had stopped. My phone was dead. I had no idea how long I'd been down there. And then I heard it again. The dragging, the breath, closer this time. I stood up, trembling. I didn't want to die here, not without knowing what this place was, but the tunnel was closing behind me, bricks reappearing where I had just walked. I was being herded forward. And finally, I reached the last door. Above it, in rusted German, Vergessen, forgotten. Inside was a vast underground ward, with beds still occupied. But someone was standing in the center of the ward, tall, still, dressed like a long-forgotten orderly. He looked straight at me and said, "You woke up. You weren't supposed to." Every haunting has a witness. You've just become one. Subscribe and never be alone again.